The engine was off, but everything inside me was running hot. I stood in the narrow driveway of my parents' house, clutching my car keys so tightly they left cuts in my palm. In the back seat, my son's tiny hands twitched through the glass, his chest rising and falling in perfect innocence. I could hear snatches of laughter drifting from the backyard. My brother's big day, the engagement party my parents had dreamed of for years. Flowers on the porch, cake cooling on the kitchen counter, polished silver, and my baby sleeping like the world outside couldn't touch him. But my world was on fire. My mother's words still echoed in my ear, sharp as broken glass. "Just leave him in the car for a little while, darling. No one will even know. He'll be fine. Why must you always make everything about you and that baby?" My father's expression wasn't any softer. His patient, managerial smile twisted into something cold. "It's for your brother, not for you. Don't be selfish. Are you planning to ruin the engagement? This family's happiness is at stake." At that moment, it was as if the whole universe had made itself impossibly small, condensed into just that driveway, that decision. I stared at the silver sedan and wondered if my parents saw the same thing I did. A fragile life buckled in the back, trusting that his mother's love would keep him safe. Did they see a child at all, or just an inconvenience? The August sun was already starting to bake the glass. My heart pounded. I tried to swallow, but my mouth was dry, as if shame itself was gluing my tongue to the roof of my mouth. I tried to reason with them, my voice little more than a whisper. "He's just a baby. It isn't safe. You never left us alone in the car. Not like this." But my words seemed to slip from their memories, invisible, like I was speaking a language neither wanted to remember. From inside, I could hear the beginning of applause, maybe for the speeches, maybe for my brother and his fiancée. My absence wasn't just noticed. It was already being questioned. I imagined my mother leaning in and whispering, "See? She does this every time. She can't be part of anything but her own drama." Was I truly being dramatic? Could this possibly be the right thing, rational, normal? No matter how many times I replayed their logic, something inside me screamed in protest. Every story I'd ever read about forgotten children, every news headline, flickered behind my eyelids. And yet, I could almost hear my parents' voices, promising I'd regret ruining today for everyone else's. Was that part of being a good daughter? I glanced back into the car, looking at my son, peaceful and warm, not yet touched by the chill forming in my heart. How could any mother choose between pleasing her family and protecting her own child? I should have known something was wrong long before the driveway. That morning, everything looked pulled from a magazine, sunlight spilling across manicured lawns, my brother's voice booming with old charm as he introduced his fiancée to relatives I barely recognized. The house smelled of lilies and expensive coffee, and my parents moved through the crowd like hosts of a show they had spent years directing. "Isn't it beautiful?" my mother kept saying, her fingers laced in mine, her smile fixed and glossy. She loved the image more than the people inside it. I had dressed my son in his softest onesie, the one that made him look like a cherub, and I carried him on my hip like an offering. The party was meant to be a celebration of everything we were supposed to be: connected, grateful, whole. My father stood near the grill, regaling cousins with stories of my brother's bright future, while my mother arranged flowers in vases that cost more than my monthly grocery bill. Everyone drank champagne and laughed at jokes that didn't feel funny to me. I watched from a distance, performing a role I no longer believed in, but there were cracks. When I tried to sit near the main table, my mother gently guided me to a folding chair in the corner, away from the photographers. "You're holding him too tight, sweetheart," she said, her eyes darting to my baby's face. "Let us all enjoy the day. You don't need to be the center of everything." My brother glanced at me, then turned back to his fiancée, as if I were an inconvenient reminder of the life he had left behind. No one asked if I was tired. No one offered to hold him so I could eat. Still, I told myself it was only stress and family dynamics. I watched my parents pose for photos with perfect posture, arranging themselves in a portrait that pretended nothing had ever been broken. The sky was cloudless, a blue that promised nothing but perfection. And yet, as I watched my father adjust my brother's collar and my mother smooth the tablecloth again, I felt a strange, cold certainty settle over me. This beautiful day was already fragile, like glass waiting for a single wrong touch. Then I heard the front door open, and my mother's voice sharpened into that particular, enchanting command that made everyone freeze. The party had settled into that dangerous rhythm where everyone pretends to relax, and I was already tired of pretending. My son was fussy, just tired, just hungry, just being a baby, but in this house that made me an intruder. I rocked him gently near the buffet, trying to keep him calm, when my mother appeared beside me with that bright surgical smile that always preceded a cut. "Why is he so loud today?" she asked, not looking at him. "You know how everyone's talking about you. Can't you just leave him in the car for a bit so we can take family photos? It'll be quick. The air conditioning is running, and he'll be asleep anyway. You're making this so hard for everyone." I felt my stomach drop. "In the car? He's only 3 months old. I can't." "Don't make a scene," she interrupted, glancing at the crowd near the archway where photographers were arranging everyone for the group shot. "Your brother wanted everyone in one beautiful frame. We need this moment to be perfect, not messy. Please, just for 20 minutes. No one else seemed to hear the cruelty in her words. I looked around, searching for a single ally, but my father was already guiding cousins into position, and my brother was laughing with his fiancée. holding her hand like she was an extension of the perfect image. I was the only one holding my child, and suddenly that felt like a crime. They started calling me over for the photos, but only after I'd put him down, after I'd agreed with a shaking voice to just try it for a minute. I walked away from him, leaving the stroller near the patio, my heart a heavy stone. The camera flashes blinded me, and I smiled when instructed, but all I could see was the empty stroller and the door to the car just beyond it. Then my father stepped up, clapping my brother's shoulder, and said, "Now that's family. That's what it looks like when we put the past behind us." I felt the resentment grow like a cold thing in my chest. They had already decided my baby was an obstacle to beauty. And I was starting to realize that the greatest danger wasn't my child's fussiness. It was the unspoken agreement among them that I should leave him somewhere else, anywhere, just so they could have their perfect moment. I stepped away from the flashbulbs and the noise, following my mother into the narrow side hallway where the air was cooler and the silence felt heavier. She shut the door softly, but the click was loud as a gunshot in that quiet space. "We need to talk about your attitude," she said, her voice smooth but edged with something sharp and unyielding. I held my son closer, feeling his tiny heartbeat against my chest, his warmth the only honest thing in the room. "I'm not being difficult," I said carefully. "I just don't think he should stay in that car. It's not safe." My father appeared behind her, his posture composed, but his eyes narrowed into thin, assessing lines. "He's asleep. The air conditioning is running, the windows are cracked, and you're making a scene over nothing. You always have to make everything about your drama, your rules, your little emergencies." "It's not drama," I said, my voice rising despite myself. "He's 3 months old. The temperature is climbing, and he's not old enough." "Safe?" My mother laughed, but it was a thin, cold sound that made my stomach turn. "We left you in cars when you were babies. Did something terrible happen? No. You're overreacting because you want to be special, to be the only one who cares. But this is your brother's day, not your private crisis. Do you want to ruin it?" "I just want to be with him," I said, my jaw tightening. "Then you're selfish," my father said quietly, stepping closer. "We have family photos in 5 minutes. We have guests who traveled for this, and you are the only obstacle between us and something beautiful. Put him in the car, take the pictures, and come back. Otherwise, well, we can ask you to leave. We can find someone else to hold him, since you clearly can't be part of this family when it counts." The ultimatum landed like a physical blow, knocking the breath from me. I looked from my mother to my father, searching for any crack in their armor, any flicker of doubt, any memory of the children they once swore to protect. There was nothing. They had already decided that my son's safety was less important than their perfect image, and they had made me choose between the two.